Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this session. I am Maria Archimbal, Chief Compliance Officer at YPF, an Argentine oil and gas company. I'm a lawyer. I've got an MA in International Relations and Negotiations, an MA in International Economics Relations. I've got a diploma in oil and gas from Universidad Austral and completed another MA in Administration and Public Policy. I'm certified as a leadership professional in ethics and compliance by the Ethics and Compliance Initiative also. Between 2006 and 2012, I worked in the public sector as legal advisor in various areas of the Ministry of Industry at a national level. Between the years 2012 and 2016, served as a member of supervisory committees of several state-owned companies, as a member of the board of such companies. I have been speaker in different national and international congresses and published several articles on topics related to public law and public policies, international auditing, and accountability and compliance. I'm a former fellow of the International Visitors for Leadership program of the Department of State of the United States of America. And ever since 2020, I joined YPF first as a leader for implementation and monitoring of processes in the compliance area of the company, and ever since May this year as Chief Compliance Officer. So this morning, we are going to go deep into how compliance can contribute to the goals of an organization. So let's start. How can compliance contribute to the goals of the organization? Well, first of all, I would like to make two relevant points. The first one is consider these two aspects that I'm pinpointing here in the presentation, which is one of them is the objective, hard or external aspect of compliance, which is composed of regulations, rights and duties, legal standards, law, the bylaws of the company. And then we have the subjective or soft or internal aspect, which deals with values, principles, aspirations, culture, best practices. And the first one is more objective, I'd like to say. It's the hard one, meaning that there are regulations that are written, rights and duties that are written and that are objective and that we have to comply because there is a regulation, a law, or a legal standard that makes us comply with it. On the other hand, this objective or soft aspect has to do, as the word says, with the soft aspect, which means that these things are not necessarily written, right? They are values, they are principles, they are aspirations. It is what we believe that we have to do. Okay, so these two aspects are complementary, of course, and they should go hand by hand. That is to say, is it possible to just focus on one of the aspects and not the other? Okay, yes, it is possible, definitely, but it will be a second best. We have to do what's right, not only because there's a regulation, a right, or a legal standard written, but also because we believe that we are doing the right thing, that thing that we are doing that is the right thing to do. So this is what makes the difference between a compliance strategy, which would be a more objective or hard strategy, versus an integrity strategy, which is a lot more comprehensive, all right? And in the same line, speaking about comprehensiveness of what compliance or the concept of compliance is, I always like to say that nowadays we face a broader and expanded concept of compliance, which includes culture, regulations, corruption and bribery, free fair trade, enforcement, integrity, accurate books and records, safe workplace, diversity and gender, also transparency, of course, third parties policies, supply chain, sustainability, and we could go so on and so on. And all of these things are not only important or relevant for a compliance system at a company, but they are becoming key issues in the decision-making process of companies. So we need to have a broader and expanded view of what compliance means nowadays. We need to see the whole picture in order to be able to set up a strong and sound compliance system or compliance program in a company, and then therefore make compliance a support for the organization as the organization develops its goals, all right? The issue is now that many times compliance is seen as an obstacle, maybe a limitation, a restriction, all right? So we need to try and make that overview or that impression on compliance change. It is very important that we make compliance become a guiding concept or principle for the organization, because this will help us and will make us search for opportunities, always thinking of transparency and ethics and integrity as one of the first things, as one of the priorities of the company. This is going to help us also set the organization strategy and create value in decision making. As I said before, most of these key issues are becoming very relevant issues in decision making processes of the companies. So we need to focus on that as well and see, as I said before, again, the whole picture. And why? Firstly, voluntarily, and second, because it's mandatory. And here I would like to go back to the first slide. In these objective and hard or subjective and soft aspects of compliance, we have to do what's right because, first of all, we believe that we are doing the right thing, and because that's the only way of doing business. And of course, because there's a law, a regulation, a bylaw that enforce us to do or to behave in such a way. In this sense, our integrity program should include or should include all of these aspects. First of all, as I said, the regulation, whether it's national, international, the internal regulation of the organization, that is going to depend on what's the exposure of the organization, what's the sector of the organization, what's the activity. In my case, for example, YPF has to abide to these three kinds of regulation. There is a national regulation, that is Argentine regulation, also international regulation, as our values are listed in SEC. And of course, then we have the internal or the organization regulation, meaning the code of ethics or the policies and complementary processes as well. So there we have this objective aspect of what an integrity program should be. But also we need to focus on the values of the company. Our ethics codes should pinpoint a number of values that are going to be the guidelines for the company to set up a strategy and choose its goals every year, okay? Of course, we've got the subjective aspect as well, which is the culture of the company. We need to build the ethics and the integrity culture of the company, and we do that not only from the objective or the regulation side of the coin, as I would like to say, but this is a two-sided coin. So we need the regulation, but we also need the belief that what we are doing is right and that the only way of doing business is a right, it's an ethic, it's a transparent way. And on top of all that, we need to work on three main pillars of the organization. First one is top management, which is something that we always bring to our conversations regarding compliance, this thing of the tone from the top. We need the top management to be engaged with our compliance system, with our compliance values, with our ethics and integrity in the company. But we also need to look at the organization itself, all across the organization. We need to work there as well. And of course, we also need to work with third parties, because everything that we do, everything that our organization does, has an impact on the third parties we relate. So, taking back from those three pillars, the path to integrity should first of all look at top management, then that would have a positive spillover to the organization, and last but not least, among the third parties that the company has a relation with. What do we do with top management? You have to be there with top management in order to help them and support them when setting the strategies of the company and choosing the goals of the company. Yearly, when top management, the board of the company, the CEO, the president, the chairman of the company, and top management choose how they're going to develop their activity that year, then compliance needs to be there, helping them, supporting them, choose wisely, choose ethically, choose transparently. Following to that, we need the compliance team to help the organization make it happen. And what do I mean with this? Go with the organization, work hand by hand with the organization, and become a strategic partner so that the organization can bring about and can develop that strategy and those goals that were set up by top management. And of course, and as I said before, this will, at the end of the day, expand to third parties. We are ethically, and if we work ethically and transparently and we prioritize integrity, then that's going to expand and to spill over to the third parties with which we have a relationship. And of course, this is going to have also a positive spillover in the reputation of the organization. But we need to think, when we think of a compliance system and how compliance can help the organization achieve its goals, it's basically to add value to the organization, because working and developing our activity in a transparent environment, in an ethical environment, then that's adding value to the organization, and that there's no doubt about that. So how do we make it happen? Okay, we need to have, or the compliance area, the compliance team needs to have an active rather than reactive approach. We have to go, as I said before, with top management. We have to support the organization. We do not have to sit and wait something to happen in order to go and try and mitigate or do damage control. That might be too late. So we need to have an active approach towards the organization to be able to prevent other than mitigate later. We need to know our internal customer. That is to say, we need to know the organization, how the organization works, how each area develops its activities. Here we have these words like how, who, when, where. We need to really know who we're working with and what's the need of that internal customer, and what is the activity, what are the risks of those activities that they develop, in order to be able to support them and help them specifically. Then we need to have an active interaction with top management and operational and business areas. This is, of course, related to what I said before, know your internal customer. We need to know the company. Then we need to identify key areas of interaction, like, for example, the risk management area, cybersecurity, human resource area, internal audit. These are all going to be our strategic partners in developing the compliance system in the company. As I said before, also, we need to become a strategic partner. It's very important that the organization does not see as an obstacle or as a limitation, but as a value added, as help, as a guidance. Okay? We need to set area goals aligned with the organization goals, and then set individual goals of the members of the team as specification or as part of the area goals. It is very important that when we build our team in a compliance area, we think of the organization as a whole. We see the organization goals, and then from those goals, we choose in which of these goals are, or it is possible that the compliance area and the compliance team have an impact. And then when we have chosen that, then we need to sort of specify those broad area goals into specific or individual goals of the compliance team, so that we can develop those goals according or hand by hand with the organization goals. And of course, we also need to do follow-up and scheduling. We need to organize our work in order to be sure that by the end of the year, we are going to, or we would have worked through the whole year hand by hand with the organization, aligned with the organization strategy and goals, and supporting supporting top management and the organization in the development of that strategy and those goals. So what I would say, first of all, we need to leave the ethics system. We need to participate. We need to know the regulations, internal, national, international, as I said before, as I mentioned before. We need to talk about the system, talk about the regulations, share our experiences. We need to own the system in order to be able to help the organization. Plus, and last but not least, we need to be an ethics leader. Each of us in our organization has to know that is an ethics leader. It doesn't matter what's the position in the organization. Each of us helps the organization build the ethics and integrity culture of the organization with our daily activity. So it is very important that we, no matter, as I said, what's our position in the organization, believe that we are ethics leader and we have to set standards and be examples. So that is how how compliance helps, contributes to the goals of the organization. Thank you very much.